representative of Eli and of Rome. I am here for peace.
Fall back. Stay together. Keep tight.
For the Path of Vengeance, I think the story they wanted to tell was, a lot of it was in the context of the American Indians, in that the Amazons sort of represented what the white man did to the American Indians. They were herded in one place, and they were lost their powers, and they had all these different tribes that were fighting among themselves, and someone needed to get them together and save the race. So that was part of it. Also, we wanted to do the Trial of Eve. We'd been talking about doing the Trial of Eve all year. They were thinking about doing it in Rome, but we decided that if anyone was going to hold Eve on trial, it would be the Amazons. And so we have her going back seeking either forgiveness or punishment, whichever one she wanted. But yeah, that was the impetus of it.
In Path of Vengeance, I got the delicious chance to play Olivia again, which I love. I love that so much. It was just like a gift, which I just so embraced. Loved fighting again, loved the costume and the makeup and the hair. I just love her so much. Your whole posture changes when Olivia's on the scene. But I will say that was a bit of a wake-up call for me, because the one thing that I hadn't known until that episode, and it didn't necessarily change how I played her, but it certainly changed how I thought of her. In that episode, you find out, I believe it's that episode, that she's done this horrible thing where she has just essentially destroyed this whole village for absolutely no reason. And you also find out, I believe it's that same time where, it's the same situation where she's just thrown all these people overboard, just for no reason. She just lets all of these people drown. It's such a cold, callous, horrible thing that I remember in the table read, because Ares, I believe, is the one that brings that up. And in the table read, I remember thinking, oh, he's just lying, he's exaggerating to make it worse. And I remember asking Rob specifically, wait, but did she really do this? And he goes, oh yeah, that was absolutely her. And I thought, what a bitch, is what I really thought.
Varia's telling the truth. I did those things.
The accused has confessed to her crimes. Her guilt is not in question. All that remains to be decided is the form of punishment.
The law is clear. Death or banishment.
Speaking of the red hair, I think one of my biggest memories was when, on my first ad set, we had a scene in the forest, which we were shooting outside. And because I was the Celtic Amazon queen, I had my tribe, of course, with me, made up of a fabulous bunch of stunties. And I'd been made up and had my cosy on and what have you, and got into the forest, Muriwai Forest, I think it was, and was talking with the director about where we were sort of heading next. And he looked over my shoulder and he said, oh my good Lord, there are your tribespeople. And I looked around and there was about 40 people with really curly red hair.
We're friends of your tribe. We want to talk.
Varia, Queen of the Amazon Nation, has ordered that no one is allowed to pass.
Well, we're coming through. Xena, I know you want to save Eve, but these are our friends. So let's keep it that way, all right?
In Path of Vengeance, I was asked to write for the Amazons again. I think I became sort of the go-to guy for the Amazons, because Dangerous Prey turned out pretty well. And so they had me come back and write for the Amazons.
I know what I have to do. I've decided to go east, to Chin and the land of Indus. Eli's message will be heard.
Now?
Yeah.
You mean now?
At the end of Path of Vengeance, I do think that Eve is still searching, but I think she knows now what she's searching for. And I think that makes a big difference, that she has an actual path that she's trying to follow. So she's found her calling, she's embraced it, and I think that's a lot different than just arbitrarily looking. It was such a strange ending because we didn't exactly know where she was going or what she would do, what she would be fulfilling in the future. So it's somewhat ambiguous, but I think what's comforting is that at that point, she has truly embraced Eve fully at that point. So she lets her past go and is able just to move into the future, which I think is fantastic.
Earlier on that year, I think I had auditioned for another episode of Xena, and I wasn't successful in terms of being cast in that one. And so about 6 or 8 months later, my agent rang me up and she said, "Have you cut your hair?" And I said, no, it's still fine, longish, a little bit longer than it is now. And she said, "And it's still red, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes. Why? Is there something in the pipeline?" And she said, "Well, look, they'd actually gone through my tapes from the audition that I'd done several months beforehand, and yeah, the look that I had really fitted for Gwyntier."
Whoa. Is that any way to request the company of your patron god?
You were behind the raid that killed my sisters. Eve told us what happened.
And you believed her?
Just tell me the truth.
Okay. Artemis was content to let your sisters dwindle away in separate tribes. I saw it coming. I tried to warn her.
How did Ares become part of the mix? That was Rob Tappert again. Rob would sometimes be like a cook in the kitchen, and he would try different things and mix different ingredients. And we hadn't seen Ares in a while, and he wanted to put him in there. And yeah, I guess it became my job, since Ares is the god of war. I thought, well, he would be leading them astray, and the Amazons astray. And what would he like more than two armies clashing together, both sides worshiping him? So that became his sort of uber plan, that he was going to have the Romans and the Amazons fighting, both sides worshiping him for victory, because Ares had lost his godhood earlier, and he wasn't feeling too much like a man, I guess, and he had some catching up he needed to do. So that was his plan.
I need to do this on my own. Goodbye.
Stay out of trouble.
Well, I remember Lucy wasn't particularly happy with the way that the scene ended. For all of us, it just felt a little weak. So we just all threw out lines just of what we thought would be better, but to be honest, we were joking about some of them, as you do on set. Just like, oh, well, if I was you, I'd say this. And we all threw out some things, but I remember somewhere within there was the point of, don't get into trouble or something like that. And we couldn't figure out what we wanted to say, and Lucy, being such a pro, she goes, "You know what, let's just do it. It'll come to me, it'll be instinct," or something to that nature. And we did it. We just did the scene, and I'm walking off, into my future, and she does yell out something like, "And don't get into any more trouble," or something like that.
As Queen of the Amazon Nation, in the name of our god Ares, I sentence Livia of Rome.
Wait. Varia is the queen, Gabrielle. She decides the sentence.
I use my right of challenge. You are not Queen Varia until you defeat me.
Gabrielle was working within the frameworks of the Amazons. If she was going to stop this from happening, Gabrielle was going to do it herself, and she was going to do it by the rules of the Amazons. So since she is an Amazon queen, she had the right of challenge. And then we have that stylized bare-knuckle boxing fight, which was going to be a hot oil wrestling, by the way, and I'm not joking before that. Yeah, that was early draft turns into a bare-knuckle fight.
I did not know Path of Vengeance was my last episode. It was initially supposed to be in the next to last episode, maybe the last two. But this, you know, as you do, you just keep rewriting the story, trying to find what's appropriate. And right at the last minute, they decided, both I think that not only was the character not needed in the final episode, but I think when you look at Path of Vengeance, it was such a beautiful ending that you almost don't want to mess with that, because almost every single time that Eve showed up, invariably there would be more issues brought up than put to rest. There would always be more things that we then had to deal with, and I think Path of Vengeance closed the door on so many of those, and it was just a nice ending, so I think it was a good way to leave it.
I hereby sentence Livia, killer of the Amazons, to death, so that Eve, the messenger of peace, may live. You are free to go.